Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event.
Oh, yeah!
Are you ready?
And now, coming live from Wrestling-News.net and presented by Spreaker, it's Main Event Madness. Madness Unleashed. You can also chat with us during the show, either by using the hashtag MEMLive or by calling 305-600-4708. And now, here are the hosts of tonight's show, John Curry, Mark Madison, and Aaron Ramadanov. What is going on, everybody? How are you guys all doing out there? It is February 10th edition of Main Event Madness. Thank you guys for taking time out of your Wednesday night and your week to come hang out with us and hear what we got to say and hear our opinions. But before I get any further, status quo as it is every week. I'm joined by my co-host, mi compadre, that you can hear each and every week with me. He's a columnist for TGIWrestling.net and TheRichest.com, Mark Madison, and also tonight begins our co-host audition rotation, if you will. So joining us tonight, he's also a writer for TGIWrestling.net. He is Kurt Zamora. Guys, welcome to the show. Kurt, popping your podcast cherry, are we?
Appreciate y'all having me on for the first time. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for being interested. Really appreciate it, man. And Mark, how's it going?
Good, buddy. Good to hear. It's been a very busy day for you and I. And,
yeah, it feels like a baseball doubleheader,
Oh, totally. People might wonder what we're talking about. If you want to maybe fill them in briefly about that.
Yes, we have a major announcement that I'll be tweeting out. You guys can follow me on Twitter at JohnMEMRadio and follow Mark on Twitter at TheMarkMadison. And Kurt, what is your Twitter handle?
Everyone can follow me at Frisco K Tank.
There we go.
TANK.
There we go. And I will be having a tweet out in a mere matter of moments. We have a big announcement that I'm going to reveal at the end of the show regarding a former World Heavyweight Champion wrestler who will be on the show next week for an awesome interview. Definitely looking forward to that. But if you guys want to chat with us, use the hashtag on Twitter, MEMLive, or you guys can also call into the show, 305-600-4708. That's 305-600-4708. Or even, if you guys want to, hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/maineventmadness. And before we get too far ahead of ourselves here, we have a big interview coming up in about 20 or so minutes from now. Vampiro. You can hear him each and every week on the El Rey Network. He's an announcer for Lucha Underground. They're just getting underway. I think this is week 3, I believe, for season 2, if I'm right on that, Mark?
Yep, yeah, it'd be season 2, episode 3. Now, something to share with you, too, about Kurt. He is a huge Lucha Underground fan.
Awesome.
Kurt, maybe you can share some of what your feelings have been over the last couple of weeks, and even as far as last year ended with Ultimate Lucha.
Ultimate Lucha, to me, was by far the best wrestling show of the year. I mean, it just had a little bit of everything. The violence of Pentagon Jr. and Vampiro, since he's our guest this week, really obviously stands out, and I think that's what a lot of people remember from Ultimate Lucha. But, Alberto El Patron versus Johnny Mundo killed it. The 6-person tag trios match, they killed it. Of course, Prince Puma and Mil Muertes had a great match. So, they really set the bar. And so far, with the first 2 weeks of the season, they look like they're trying to exceed that bar.
Awesome stuff, man. And, really pulling for them to, that coveted number 2 position to WWE. And that is, and depending on the fans' opinion of it, it really is subjective. But, always pulling for somebody to really bring some competition to the WWE. You know, we thought for years it would be TNA or Ring of Honor a little bit there, here and there. And, you know, when Jeff Jarrett announced Global Force, we thought it could be that. But, you know, Lucha Underground seems like it could really honestly be the underdog in that, and that it could really provide a big alternative. And it already has started to in the last year or so. So definitely excited to see what they can bring the rest of the season. Now, you guys had something you guys wanted to address before we get started on the show here. Mark, do you want to go ahead with that?
Yeah, both Kurt and I actually have the privilege of writing under John Canton, who owns, is kind of the operator, runs TGRWrestling.net. John has had a passing. His father passed away just recently, and we'd like to send our condolences, and anybody that would like to tweet out John or actually follows John at the John Report. Great guy, longtime writer, is about as easygoing, I think, a guy as you would meet. Kurt, what would you say to John, or could say of John?
You know, it's one thing to be able to for him to think highly enough of me to write for his site, because I know he takes TGI Wrestling very seriously. You know, it's near and dear to him, obviously. But it's another thing to be his friend. I definitely consider myself a friend of his, and so, you know, the battle that he's been dealing with his father was tough to go through with him, and you know, I'm definitely sorry for his loss. And just because I know he'll probably need a laugh when he hears this, I'm going to tell him to keep pounding, and that'll be a joke between me and him that hopefully he'll get a chuckle out of.
Super.
Good stuff.
Well, from I guess Kurt and I, our condolences go out to John Canton and family. Definitely.
Thoughts and prayers with the family for sure. Always tough to see somebody you're close to have a loss in the family. So definitely sad to hear that. But we got a jam-packed show that basically, as I mentioned to Mark off air, basically wrote itself, which I love those weeks, because it's so much less work for me to do. But we got a lot of topics to get to. Daniel Bryan, if you lived under a rock, Daniel Bryan's been going back and forth with WWE. Will they clear me? Will they not clear me? He retired this week. If you lived under a rock, you probably still heard about it, because literally any wrestling fan on the planet's been talking about it. We got some Rossum moments, and Kurt, if you don't know what those are our bullet points, the major talking points for Monday Night Raw coming out of the broadcast Monday. Titus O'Neil suspended. Controversial suspension.
John, we have to say something to Kurt. Now, Kurt, you're more than welcome to say whatever you want, but just don't touch us, or we might suspend you for 90 days. So.
Well, considering WrestleMania is within those 90 days, I'm not going to do anything to push any boundaries, so I'll keep my hands to myself.
Suspension takes effect after WrestleMania.
Okay, then I make no promises.
Fair enough.
But Titus O'Neil suspended. We're going to touch on that in a little bit. CM Punk in UFC. I swear to God, this is going to be the new Daniel Bryan WWE. Will CM Punk ever compete in the Ultimate Fighting Championship? It ain't looking like it's going to happen anytime soon, that's for sure. And Rey Mysterio and AAA having a few issues. Could Rey Mysterio possibly be coming back to WWE after Lucha Underground is all done for Season 2? And a little bit of a tidbit on John Cena and the WWE. And as I mentioned, Vampiro will be with us in about 20 minutes from now with a live interview. Definitely looking forward to that. So let's just dive right into this, guys. Like I just touched on, Daniel Bryan announced on Twitter Monday that he was retiring. Kurt, I'm going to go to you first. What was your first thoughts when you saw that Daniel Bryan announced he was retiring?
I was one of those people that, I'm sure there are many of them, I was really just kind of hoping and praying it was a work, leading to an angle. I felt that the tweet was kind of out of nowhere. I mean, I know that there had been rumors that he was going to be on Raw on Monday, that he was confirmed for the show, but the tweet just seemed so out of nowhere and almost unnecessary. I'm sure now in hindsight they wanted him to send out that tweet for people to see his retirement speech, but just kind of as it was progressing through the day, it seemed very oddly timed. So I was hoping it was a work. But clearly it wasn't, and it's just, it's a sad day for wrestling in general, not just the fans, but in general, the sport of wrestling. It's a sad day.
Absolutely, Mark. What was your initial reaction to
Well,
seeing?
It's interesting because Kurt had said, it would be easy to probably think that it's at work, but as wrestling fans that tend to follow it so closely, it's almost disappointing that we would have to think that it would be when he's actually trying to be sincere about something. But that's unfortunately the kind of climate that we're in when it comes to wrestling. I didn't want to believe it. I'm sure, like Kurt had said, along the same lines, you didn't want to believe that it was true. And then, is this going to turn into an angle or a swerve? And then there were memes coming out with Daniel Bryan's head generated onto Mark Henry's body when they're doing the same sort of idea. That's why people were playing it up. But then, really set in. It'd be a lot to go through to play with somebody's livelihood and life when it comes to retirement, especially when it's been really well documented the times and the struggles that he's gone through. So, I was in the same boat where I felt something's up with this. I don't necessarily want to believe it, but then when it happened, it was really sad. It really was heart-wrenching to have to see a guy that's given so much, and it all ends so quickly at 34.
And also, John, if I can cut in real quick,
go ahead.
I don't know if you guys saw the ESPN interview that Daniel Bryan did on SportsCenter last night, and I did watch it. I almost feel that it would have been better for that interview to have aired before the retirement speech because, like to Mark's point, it's sad that the fans, myself included, wanted it to be a work. But in that interview on ESPN, Daniel Bryan, revealed some serious information in regards to the liaison on his brain that was causing seizures, and he was hiding the seizures, and obviously no one knew about this because it hadn't gotten out. And that kind of, that really hit me hard that this is 100% legit, serious business. And I think that would have, that really would have made the situation more realistic for the fans to accept and, not have people wish it was work and have the memes come out like Mark brought up and stuff like that.
John, had you seen it? The ESPN special?
Yeah. I mean, I was still, hoping, like everybody was, that they could, maybe not some sort of angle, but, they'd have somebody come out and be like, well, I guess it would be an angle, and be like, well, you're not retiring before I get one last match with you, and they, do WrestleMania. But then I, like Kurt said, I saw that ESPN special. Makes all the sense in the world. And, it's amazing how the drop of a dime people can go from hating Vince McMahon in the WWE for not clearing Bryan. And then after Bryan was on SportsCenter, it's like, wow, Vince knew what he was doing. Okay. He wasn't being a jerk after all. All the conspiracy theories. And I know I had mentioned it a few times here on the show about, was Bryan not being cleared because they wanted Roman to get pushed, and well, guess that wasn't the case after all.
I feel awful for having to think that because they're like, no, it's going to take away from. Well, ideally, it would have had he been cleared because there's no way that that entire arena last night was electric, and you could think that any arena that he would have been in, where that Reigns push would have taken a back seat because you can't control what's organic, and the feeling that they have, it's genuine. It's not fabricated, it's real, and a lot of the wrestling fans that are following have seen him outside of the WWE and what he gave to the sport prior to being there. So,
yeah, go ahead.
I hadn't seen the Sports Center special, and I know you guys have. Maybe I just had one question for both of you. The leisures that he had that were leading to the seizures. What is the prognosis on those things continuing? Like those, I know he was keeping the seizures on the down low, but what is the likeliness that they would be repeated? Was that talked about at all?
That was, John, correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't hear anything in regards to him updating a prognosis on those. He just said that he had been hiding those, and he had done, I believe they're called EKGs. I don't remember what the test he was doing.
Something like that.
But he said that he had been doing those certain tests before, and they had found nothing, and that's why he was so frustrated at not being cleared. And then the last one he did in New York actually found the lesions on his brain, and they told him that these lesions lead to seizures, and that's when he admitted he'd been hiding the seizures. And once he found out what was causing the seizures, he knew that he finally accepted that it was over for him.
Yeah, he had mentioned, like Kurt just said, that there were a lot of tests he did, and then when he went to New York, it was like this new test or something that he, I don't know if he hadn't done it yet, or if they, decided, hey, let's just like quadruple check this, make sure our T's are crossed and I's are dotted, to paraphrase him. And then that's when he said, like the part of his brain was showing a little bit of the slowing, and that's when they're like, all right, this, and they were testing the brain activity with
reflexes,
with different reflexes of his body, and that's when they saw it, and they're like, okay, so you are not cleared.
It sounded very much like Edge, where Edge got that test for his neck, and they said, okay, you're officially done. Like, it was that sudden, and that's how Daniel made this test sound. Is that that was it at that point.
Mm-hmm. And and I had mentioned to Mark earlier. I can imagine you may have felt the same way. I got a little teary-eyed during his speech, and then he started talking about his dad, and then he went to go hug his mom, and that's when I started getting, I'll admit it, I started bawling a little bit too. And the one that, I've seen so many people say the same thing. There's that one picture, it's either before or after Bryan went out there, where he's just crouched down, and he is just bawling his eyes out. And there's just no words for it. Like, all you see is just him crying passion. Something he's wanted for the last 25 years of his life, 30 years of his life, just got completely wrenched right out of his grasp.
It was hard to watch. I know personally, Edge's retirement really hit me hard. I mean, Edge is one of my top 5 all-time favorites, and I'm a big Daniel Bryan fan. He's not on that level for me, but it was tough to watch because he had a 16-year career, but unlike Edge, where you saw from beginning to end him get his just due, it felt like Daniel Bryan had taken so long to get there. He finally got that moment at WrestleMania 30, and ever since then, the carpet just kept getting pulled out from under him. So I feel like a lot of fans just didn't see the full value and potential that we should have had in Daniel Bryan. That's what makes it even more sad.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the fact he's a likable guy.
Yeah, and Shawn Michaels, guy was in his early to mid-40s. We knew it was coming sooner or later. Edge, those of us who watched Edge, and I know I was teary-eyed watching Edge, like most people were. You knew he was wrestling on borrowed time, not to quote him or anything, but you knew. When he had that neck fusion, like Austin did, it was only a matter of time. Granted, you can make the same argument with Bryan, but the two of them both, it came just right out of left field. Especially with Bryan, like, I'm cleared by this one and that one, and nobody heard that. He did this one test where they told him, "All right, you ain't wrestling again."
Those are the toughest ones when they come out of left field because with Edge, I was at WrestleMania 27 in Atlanta, his last match, and I remember being in Atlanta and complaining that he was the curtain jerker of the night, even though he was the champion. And then you complain about that, and you wonder where he's going to go from there. And then all of a sudden, in a blink of an eye, he's retiring, and then the thoughts process like, okay, this was his last match that I just saw, and obviously, at the show, you don't think that way, and then in hindsight, you have to think that way, and it's tough when it comes out left field like that.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense, too, looking back at Edge's, because, the way they went about his whole match, it was, all right, let's just get this done and over with. They didn't rush the quality of the match, but just, like, the fact that they opened the show with the world title, and it's like, we got to get this done, we got to get this over with, I think the WWE knew a little bit, and didn't he say that they knew going into Mania?
I know he had said he had one test pending, and then he found out the night after WrestleMania.
Also, he found out, which would have been the Monday on the Raw when he announced. Did he announce it on SmackDown?
No, he announced it.
If I remember correctly, he announced it the week after WrestleMania, so 8 days after WrestleMania, if I remember the timeline correctly. But gave the speech. He said he found out the day after WrestleMania.
Right.
Which, I mean, if you look back at the whole thing, you kind of knew that, you know, if not knowing that he was walking away from it, you could kind of watch and be like, all right, well, he kind of knew something was up. You know, he didn't take many bumps. He, you know, especially the last month and a half, he really didn't wrestle. I mean, he was fired for like 2 weeks on SmackDown, and then his world title match, quote unquote, with Dolph Ziggler was what, 3 minutes?
That sounds about right.
And then he did the, if I remember right, he did the tag match with Randy Orton, and Randy did most of the work in it. So, although I remember seeing one GIF, and I don't know if this is what caused like the last, you know, straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, was he did like a spear or something on Brodus Clay on the outside, and he smacked his head on the floor. Yeah,
he said he had really severe tingling after that spear. I remember him talking about that.
So I think that may have been, you know, which kind of sucks, because, you know, had he not done that, you know, what if? I guess that's what that boils down to. We will never know.
Well, it's ironic. It's ironic you bring that up, because I remember when Daniel Bryan had that match with Randy Orton, and they stopped the match. And I remember, and the big story was Daniel Bryan went backstage and just, you know, tore the place up because he was so angry that they would stop a match. And in hindsight, you know, you wonder if, did WWE, obviously WWE stopping it was the right decision, but had the damage already been done at that point?
Mm-hmm. Like, maybe, you know, the WWE's doctors and medical team, and we got to hit a commercial break here in a little bit. We'll definitely come back to these the Rawson moments and talk a little bit more about this after the interview. What was I going to say? Damn. I had such a good segue there, and then I forgot my point.
Live radio, anything can happen, Kurt.
That it does.
I'm just glad it wasn't me on my first time.
Can't be faulted for that.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. You know, WWE's medical staff gets a lot of slack after CM Punk especially, you know, bashed them. And you got to kind of almost hold them in a little bit of a different regard. You know, you were talking about that match. Did they kind of know back then was something up? So
it makes you wonder.
You know, for all the talk about, oh, just take a Z-Pack, you know, I doubt, you know, could Punk be right? Absolutely. But you got to wonder. I mean, I think they're a little bit better off than people think they are. But
I would agree with that.
I mean, looking at it now, I mean, I'm just thankful that that at least, you know, it like we'd mentioned, it kind of seemed like pre-Benoit a little bit, which, you know, the comparisons between the two are eerie to say the least. But at least they caught it, you know. He didn't have any kind of brain issues, or God forbid anything like even remotely close to the extent of what happened with Benoit. You know, so he can at least live a somewhat normal life and go ahead and have that family that he and Brie have been talking about for years now. And by the way, that may have been the funniest part of that whole thing. The crowd, or he's like, me and my wife want to have kids. Yes, yes, yes. That's what Brie says all the time.
Well, I mean, if I was getting to sleep with Brie Bella, not to be crude, but I'd be complimenting myself for that too.
I just like the fact that people have made jokes about that ever since we found out they were getting married, and then his last promo, yeah, we'll make the joke too. But guys, you are listening to Main Event Madness. We are streaming live on wrestling-news.net. Please, if you guys could, go ahead to facebook.com/Main Event Madness. Give us a like and help spread the word and get us out there, get the brand out there. We appreciate any and all people that even take the time to post, to even view the page, you know, even just to see what we're about. Also, if you guys want, give me a follow on Twitter at John MEM Radio. Follow Mark at the Mark Madison. And I forgot it. Follow Kurt Zavora
at Frisco K Tank.
There we go. I'll get that for the next batch. And of course, you guys, if you're missing any of tonight's show, which we have Vampiro coming up in about 3 minutes, you guys will be able to check out the show iTunes, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, Player FM, breaking wrestling news coming soon, and of course on YouTube and, as mentioned, wrestling-news.net. We are streaming live there all week long. So if you guys miss the show, just head over there. Player pops right up on the page, easy to see. And if you guys don't want to listen to it, no harm, no foul. But coming up, as we've been saying, Vampiro, color commentator, I believe. Yes, because that's Matt Stryker. Color commentator for Lucha Underground, a former WCW star, and a wrestling promotion that not many remember. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was also part of Wrestling Society X. Am I like one of the only 4 or 5 people left on the planet that still remember that?
I think you are.
But Vampiro's coming up, guys. We are streaming live, as I said, on wrestling-news.net. We're going to hit a commercial break, and we'll be back. From the associate producer of The Wrestler, and in the tradition of Joe Franklin and Ed Sullivan variety talk shows, Evan Ginzburg's Legends TV features an eclectic mix of legendary million-selling musicians, indie artists deserving greater exposure, and colorful pro wrestlers. Co-hosted by Steve Ludwig of Classic Pop Culture Radio, the show airs live every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern at MadhouseTV.com and LegendsTVNYC.com. Martha Wash, Crown Heights Affair, Lanny Poffo, Nicole Bass, and other legends have joined us. You missed the birth of your mother and father. Don't you dare miss Evan Ginzburg's Legends TV. So you decided to check out Main Event Madness, and now you want to know how you can get the latest news about the show, the hosts, guests, showtimes, and more? Well, the answer's simple. Facebook. Head over to facebook.com/Main Event Madness and be a part of the hundreds who have already liked the page and are the first to know everything you could ask about Main Event Madness. Facebook.com/Main Event Madness, the official Facebook page for Main Event Madness Radio. Life's about working. Life's about progress. Why not put them together? Well, we did. Working Progress is here, the Fans View podcast. Matt Brees and Mike Rooker take the latest news and rumors in the world of pro wrestling and added some NFL and more, and add a fantasy spin to it, and you get Working Progress every month, only on memnetwork.wix.com/home. From the ashes of our old website comes a fresh new face from Main Event Madness. MEM Network is here. Check out all of your favorite episodes of Main Event Madness, Working Progress, Wrestling's Rope Break, and Evan Ginzburg's Legends TV. More shows to be announced in the future, but check out memnetwork.wix.com/home, where the madness runs wild. From the associate producer of The Wrestler, and in the tradition of Joe Franklin and Ed Sullivan variety talk shows, Evan Ginzburg's Legends TV features an eclectic mix of legendary million-selling musicians, indie artists deserving greater exposure, and colorful pro wrestlers. Co-hosted by Steve Ludwig of Classic Pop Culture Radio, the show airs live every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern at MadhouseTV.com and LegendsTVNYC.com. Martha Wash, Crown Heights Affair, Lanny Poffo, Nicole Bass, and other legends have joined us. You missed the birth of your mother and father. Don't you dare miss Evan Ginzburg's Legends TV. So you decided to check out Main Event Madness, and now you want to know how you can get the latest news about the show, the hosts, guests, showtimes, and more? Well, the answer's simple. Facebook. Head over to facebook.com/Main Event Madness and be a part of the hundreds who have already liked the page and are the first to know everything you could ask about Main Event Madness. Facebook.com/Main Event Madness, the official Facebook page for Main Event Madness Radio. Life's about working. Life's about progress. Why not put them together? Well, we did. Working Progress is here, the Fans View podcast. Matt Brees and Mike Rooker take the latest news and rumors in the world of pro wrestling and added some NFL and more, and add a fantasy spin to it, and you get Working Progress every month, only on memnetwork.wix.com/home. From the ashes of our old website comes a fresh new face from Main Event Madness. MEM Network is here. Check out all of your favorite episodes of Main Event Madness, Working Progress, Wrestling's Rope Break, and Evan Ginzburg's Legends TV. More shows to be announced in the future, but check out memnetwork.wix.com/home, where the madness runs wild. All right, guys. Very sorry about that. Gotta love live radio and technical difficulties there. At this time, we have from Lucha Underground, one of their announcers, Vampiro here. Vampiro, thank you very much, man, for taking time out of your day. Greatly appreciate you coming and just to chat with us for a little bit and, just answer some questions.
No problem, man. I'm sorry, I'm in the grocery store, brother.
All good, all good. Mark, we ready to go?
We're ready to go.
All right.
Well, long storied career. For Vampiro of Lucha Underground. Prior to that, he was in WCW. But prior to that, fans may not know, was a goaltending prospect, the OHL's Kingston Front. What led to the decision not to pursue hockey early in life?
Hey, man, I hate to say this, brother, but everything you just said to me broke up. I didn't hear one word you said.
Not a problem. Let's try one more time. Prior to wrestling, you were a goaltending prospect for the OHL's Kingston Frontenacs, correct?
Yes.
What led to the decision not to pursue hockey early on in your life?
Well, I think I was at a point in my life that it was one of those things when I was really young and I was ahead of the game and I wanted to advance my career, but they wouldn't let me start playing in a semi-pro league because I was too young. So I started to get bored with the whole thing, and then that's when I got involved in alternative music. And little by little, as the sporting world started to hold me down and music started opening its doors, I kind of lost interest in hockey. And at that time, I was dyeing my hair different colors, and I started getting tattoos, and they told me that had no place in sports. And I said, okay, well, I guess it's time for me to find another path in life. Kind of strange now when you see every single person in the NBA or professional soccer full of tattoos. So it's kind of funny at the time they told me that, but that's kind of what happened.
It's unfortunate because, what someone looks like is basically what they were judging, not necessarily on the talent you had. So.
Yeah, I guess, it is what it is, brother.
Maybe you can share with fans some of your early training under Abdullah the Butcher and working with international wrestling out of Montreal. How were those experiences like?
Well, being with Abdullah the Butcher, it was kind of different than most people's training. With him, it was more like we had amazing conversations, and it was more about the showmanship and how to be heel and how to tell a story and how to make people scared and all these kind of things. There was never any in-ring training. I actually never really did any in-ring training in my life. Everything was based on, I was kind of lucky that I was a visual learner, and everything I've done in life has been physical. I mean, animated or however you want to say it. So I think it all started back then with the attraction to the violence that he would transmit back then. You got to remember, with no social media, and Abdullah the Butcher in the wrestling world was this immense character, and that really kind of did it for me, and that's kind of what I based everything on.
And some of your work in Montreal under international wrestling, it's such a long time ago, but any memories that kind of stand out?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great time for me because I was a young guy and wrestling was starting its first big boom, with the WrestleMania and all that kind of stuff, the first one. And I was fortunate enough back then, Ric Flair was there, Rick Martel, Stan Hansen, the Road Warriors, Bruiser Brody, all these great guys. And then, of course, the Canadian guys. I had one or two matches, but I was just basically, a job guy, and I just kind of went in there and just got a beating, but I was still in the ring, right? I was only 16 years old, but I was working every day. I was setting up the ring. I was selling the programs. I was traveling with the guys. I saw what it was like to live on the road, and I just was brought up in the business by that generation of old school guys. So I was very fortunate. So it was great.
Now, one of the things that Vampiro's most prominent for is Lucha Libre and the style and working in CMLL and in Mexico. During the early 90s, what was it about the Lucha style that's appealed to you the most, and why Mexico and the connection that has been so strong really prominently throughout your career?
There was no attraction, man. It was just kind of like when Montreal closed down, I didn't want to give up the dream, the pursuit. So they told me in Montreal back then, you can either go to Memphis, you can go to Calgary, or Mexico. If you really want to work every day, the best place to go would be Mexico. So I kind of showed up there in 1989 with the dream of just learning. And something happened by accident, and the character became extremely famous. And I stayed there until last year. So I was there for quite a while.
What was it about the character you think that picked up as much popularity as it did in the late 80s and early 90s?
I used to work in Los Angeles for different musical groups. And one of the bands that I worked for was Milli Vanilli. And I really had that vibe going on, the braided hair, the different color suits with cowboy boots and all that kind of stuff. It was the time when Guns N' Roses just exploded. So Mexico was kind of oppressed at that time. The government had just opened up cable. They just let live concerts happen again. MTV was on the air. Things were happening in Mexico, so it was a boom. And all of a sudden, I showed up at the right time. So I had that look. I was 21 years old, and I had that whole LA vibe, and that was what was in style at the time. And I guess the character got over because of the girls were liking it. It had nothing to do with wrestling ability. I think I'm probably the worst wrestler in the history of wrestling. I couldn't give you a headlock if you paid me $1 million. It was all about girls, man.
Okay, it was kind of hard to argue that, right? If the character stands out, whatever worked. Now, you also had the opportunity to compete in Japan. Wrestle Association Art. What would you have said that, were you prepared for that? Maybe the opportunity to compete there in comparison to Mexico?
Back then in Mexico, at that time, that was when the UWF was really strong. That was before MMA hit. And everybody in Mexico wanted to go to Japan. That was the big thing, right? Go to Japan, go to Japan. And I was like, I kept asking, can I go? And everybody told me, you're not ready. They're going to eat you alive, blah, blah, blah. And I finally got the opportunity to go. And I thought that was such a great experience. I was starting to get into the wrestling, and I was learning, and I was studying Japanese tapes, and I was catching on. And man, I went over there, and it was the same thing, it was all girls. And I got in trouble with all the guys because I wouldn't wrestle, and I was just hanging out with the girls, and that's what it was all about, man. Rock and roll, baby. I don't know what else to tell you.
Fair enough. Now, fans that had seen you compete in WCW, I thought you were part of a couple of underrated factions at the time. I think they probably did as well. Deadpool, Dark Carnival. Was there anything you felt maybe could have been done to develop those factions more? Were you happy that they lived the life that they were meant to live and nothing more?
I had no idea. I didn't enjoy my time at all in WCW. I was very fortunate that I had the opportunity to do it. Of course, I was a young man starting a family. At that time, it actually kind of wasn't too bad in the ring, and I was into it, and I really wanted to go, and I was at the right time in my life, the right age, and physically I was good. And WCW just breaks you down. It just destroyed you. It made you hate the business. It made you hate yourself. They didn't understand you. They made you do things that were just not happening at all, and they couldn't understand me. They couldn't figure me out. They couldn't understand why I was doing this crazy style with martial arts and all that kind of stuff, and they tried to stick me with one group. They put me with another. I don't think they knew what they were doing with me, and I hated it. And there were some situations, with other guys from Mexico blocking me up there. It wasn't a pleasant experience. I'm very grateful for it. I met a lot of great people, and the fans were great. But other than that, man, I think it sucked so bad. I hated it.
But now, talk about your time in WCW not being pleasant at all and not liking it at all. But you also had the opportunity to compete for TNA. How was that experience? How would you walk away with that?
Brother, have you ever been kicked in the balls? That was like TNA. I got kicked in the balls. I fucking hated it.
Yeah, that's unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So it was really the WCW was just shorter time? Oh, it's okay. But that's real, right? So
man. No, dude. It was like, that was when TNA was just starting, and, I love Jeff Jarrett. I really do. And I've got nothing bad to say about him. But at the time in WCW, they were going to give me the championship belt, and Jeff Jarrett said no. He didn't want to do the job to me, and that kind of ended my career in WCW. So then when I went to TNA, and he kind of had us saying things there, and they kind of made a fool out of me, I just kind of was like, man, fuck this, you know what I mean? And I didn't need it, and I just never went back.
So, wait, you have as much respect for Jeff being and doing what he has, but at the same time,
it's kind of like this, man. Life is too short to hold grudges. You know what I mean? And the wrestling business is a dirty business, and life goes on, man. You just gotta let things go. So yeah, we're cool now, but at the time it was like it wasn't happening.
Okay. Now, Slade, Mel, what would you find as being maybe the differences in those two promotions in your time with either? Would you have a preference of one as opposed to the other, or different ideologies, different philosophies?
Where, in CML, and AAA?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man, you're breaking up a lot, but
no problem.
Yeah, CMLL was like this really traditional, old school wrestling thing that was like kind of stuck in the 1950s, and I never changed. And then all of a sudden, AAA started, and they were such a horrible copy of the WWE, because they were in the learning curve themselves, right? So they were trying to copy WWE. CMLL was trying to stay in their time fucking capsule, and I think that the big difference was that AAA was doing angles and trying to do storylines, and CMLL was just kind of based on their Friday night show with really no storylines, no angles, nothing like that. They were stuck with characters that were from like the 1950s, like I said. So that was probably the big difference in the companies. Well, I didn't prefer one over the other. No, it didn't matter to me. You know what I mean? It's work is work, right?
Right. But one was definitely more progressive than the other. Because one had stuck, as you said.
I did really well in the CMLL because I stayed loyal to the company and I didn't jump ship like everybody else did. So because I stayed there and I was the young, fresh guy, the owner, Paco Alonso, he really took care of me. You know, so I was okay there. I stayed there and I had a good run. It was great. You know, and I was with great guys, old school guys. They taught me a lot of stuff, a lot about the behind the scenes culture. And that's kind of where I grew up, is in the CMLL.
Something else that's been pretty near and dear to your heart has been Guardian Angels. So for anybody that is familiar with you knows that the humanitarian work and the work that you do with that. For anybody that isn't, maybe you can explain what Guardian Angels is and what the mission is behind what you do.
Well, I've been doing the Guardian Angels for a long time. I've been doing it for a long, long time, for a lot of years. The Guardian Angels started in the 70s in New York, as a volunteer group of, basically guys who wanted to get out of the gang life, who wanted to get out of the, get out of that whole situation. They basically went around trying to take care of their neighborhood, clean up their neighborhood from gangs, the drugs, the violence, all that kind of bullshit. And it's evolved from then. Basically they were responsible for cleaning up the subway system in New York City and saving Times Square from the prostitution, the drugs, the drug dealers. It was a heavy thing. Started in 1979. So, it's expanded. It's in over 117 countries. And, we're 36 years later with over 5,000 volunteer members still going strong. And basically what we do now is we're a community outreach group. We help kids who want to do the right thing. We create positive role models in the schools. We deal a lot with bullying, kids who want to leave drug culture behind, gang culture, all that kind of stuff. So I've been doing that. I did it in Mexico for a long time. I'm also doing it in Los Angeles, and I'm running the Guardian Angels in all of Canada. So I'm pretty involved in it, and I'm kind of dedicating my life to that now. That's the big thing.
So on top of that, and keeping yourself busy with working in Mexico partly, but the big focus has been Lucha Underground and your work there. I've got nothing to do with Mexico anymore. I'm out of there. I'm done there. I'm living in Canada. Right. More so in the past. But now with Lucha Underground and your contributions to that, where do you see Lucha Underground moving as opposed to where you've seen Lucha style being in the past, maybe moving? Is this more of a hybrid? And where do you see the development in this particular company moving forward?
I honestly think it's too early to say that, where it's going to go, because it's too hot right now. It's such a different product that it's on fire, so you can't, I can say where we'd like to go. But right now, we're going into our third season. It's blowing away things on the network. People are freaking out about it. I really think the big difference between Lucha Underground and so many other products is because the fans are the people who make the show. The production team, the producers, and I'm very fortunate to be one of them. The writing staff, all that kind of stuff, the cameramen, the special effects people, the guys who do the vignettes, all that stuff. But the coolest part about Lucha Underground is the wrestling takes place in the stands, in the fans' laps, in the ring, on the roof. It's like a punk rock show. You know what I mean? Like the fans are on the stage and the band is playing with the fans. It's just a cool experience. And I don't think that's been done in the United States in a long time. So where do I see it going? I honestly think it's going to be hot for the next 3 to 4 years, seasons on television. Then I really think it's going to be established, and I honestly think it's going to start touring. And once it goes on tour, forget about it. It's going to be untouchable. Because right now on television, there's nothing else like it, right? But when you can see it live, that's where the magic takes place, because the fans bring all that emotion, the blood, sweat, and tears, and once that gets rocking, there's no fucking stopping those guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Well, I'm based out of Toronto, right? So I was excited the fact that TLN was going to start airing Lucha Underground. Was disappointed with the fact that they're airing season 1. I guess some Lucha Underground, even if it is a season 9, is better than none at all.
No, dude, season 1 is dope. You got to watch it, because near the second half of the season, man, the shit picks up. And then, of course, you're going to see yours truly bleed and light people on fire and all kind of shit. I'm telling you, man, season 1 is off the hook. But then we're going to jump right into season 2 right off the bat. Don't stress out, man. It's coming. Relax.
I guess that's the way to have approached it. You've also done some work with Lucha TO. For fans that might not be familiar, it's a smaller promotion, great in that it incorporates the luchadors, but it's still more organic. It's Canadian. Maybe your involvement with that.
I think it's an amazing company, and I support the guy 1,000, 100 million %. He's a great guy. It's a family-run thing. It's it's a Latino vibe. Everybody goes. The whole family goes. A lot of kids go. They bring in some big names from Mexico. It's pretty authentic. Unfortunately, physically, I can't do it. You know what I mean? And I felt bad. And I told the guy, I said, listen, man, I can't come anymore. I can't do your deal because, it's not worth it. The fans that remember Vampiro from 20 years ago, I'm not that guy, and physically I can't do it. And you got some young talent who deserve better. If I can help him promote it and book it and do the angles and all that kind of stuff, I'd love to. If you get a chance to go see it, I think it's worth it. I think it's a great company. It's amazing. And it's a fun experience.
It is. As being what I attended the show, I think it was on Finch Avenue. You happened to be at that show too. It was great. I mean, you have Latin food, Mexican food that's served on the side there too, and it is really that bit of a rock show. It's almost like they tried to take a little bit of and Lucha Underground, but a little more smaller scale. But it's a lot of fun to watch. So, I mean, it's in the Toronto area. Keep your eyes and ears posted for it too. Yeah,
dude, they got 3 or 4 promotions in Toronto, and when I lived in Toronto in the 80s, they never had one. You know what I mean? Wrestling didn't exist if it wasn't WWE coming to Maple Leaf Gardens every now and then. I mean, now you got local promotions. You got some kids that are doing stuff, and you got Super Kicks. You got Lucha TO. I think there's Death Punch or whatever the hell it's called. You got some good crews there that are doing these shows, man, and it's coming from the heart. You gotta support that, and I think it's great that it's available to you. You're a wrestling fan. I mean, you gotta go.
No doubt. Was there anything you'd like to share, promote, make fans aware of when it comes to Vampiro?
The only thing I want to say to the fans is thank you. For some strange reason, I've got like a kind of a rebirth, and people are interested in me again because of Lucha Underground. I really don't have any idea why or how it's working. I'm just kind of learning as I go along and just doing things like I've always done, just going off emotion and passion. Seems to work for me. I'm very thankful and grateful. I appreciate people like yourself who support the business and call and ask me to do interviews. It's very kind of you. Thank you. Nothing, man. The only thing, don't support Vampiro. Keep supporting wrestling. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing, and it's a big part of everybody's life, and just thanks for doing it.
Fantastic. If fans want to get a hold of you, how could they interact with Vampiro?
I don't want them, man. They fucking bother me. Leave me alone.
Who wants that? But if they were to maybe bother you, like they said, you meant something to them, what could they do?
Fuck all, man. I don't want to talk to anybody.
Okay. Is there any other outreach? Anything you'd like them to?
Yeah, they can reach me on Twitter. I tried. I read everyone. I really do. I retweet them all. I try to answer some, but Twitter's the best, man. I try to keep in touch with everybody that way. I don't do I have a Facebook. And the only reason I have a Facebook because there were so many fake Vampiros that I did want to tell everybody that this is the real one. I don't answer you. Don't write me on Facebook. I fucking hate that. But if you want to do the Twitter thing, it's probably the best way to go. I pay attention to that.
Now, that's speaking awesome. Of your Twitter,
that would be at Vampiro
Yes, that would be it.
At Vampiro_Vampiro.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one.
Now, Vampiro, if I can just ask one question before we get ready to wrap up, talking about your Twitter. You had mentioned something in your tweet, and I just want to ask about it quick. You said you were saying goodbye. Is there anything you were referring to?
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty dedicated to Lucha Underground. I'm very fortunate for the position I have in the company, and it's a pretty good position. And they've really let me run with the ball, behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff, and I'm grateful. I'm not going to be doing any more indie bookings. I'm not going to wrestle again. That's pretty much done. Physically, I can't do it. Professionally, I don't think it's fair to a promoter to pay all these old washed-up has-been wrestlers who are just hanging on to past fame. and doing a shitty show. I don't want to embarrass myself in the ring. And I think it's a young man's game, and I would rather a young man get that chance to get that money and make a name for himself. So I would like to say to all the promoters who had booked me on the indie scene, I'm sorry if I let you down and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just not going to do it anymore. I'm done. I'm done wrestling. I'll wrestle once or twice more in Lucha Underground, and that's it. I got one more show to do, and it's in Scotland next year, and that's it. And I just want to say thank you, and thank you for an amazing career, but I just think it's more fair to the younger guys to have that opportunity instead of an old, washed-up dude like myself stealing the glory, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Now, I had seen that Lucha Underground was already greenlit for a season 3. Are you going to be back for that, calling the action with Matt Stryker again?
Fuck yeah, man. They ain't got nobody as cool as me.
Awesome stuff. Well,
yeah, man. What are you thinking, brother? I'm the fucking rock star, bro. I'm the master.
I would have been greatly disappointed if that was a no that was going to come out of your mouth. So glad.
No, man. Of course I'm there. I just finished telling you that I'm going to wrestle 2 or 3 more times for Lucha Underground. I'll be on the mic, and like I said, I'm behind the scenes. Yeah, I'll be involved deep.
Great to hear.
Huge.
Looking forward to it, and looking forward to see what great things that can and will come from Season 2 and Season 3. And Vampiro, thank you very much once again for taking time out. And sorry again about some of the issues we had starting the interview, but glad we were able to rebound and have a great interview.
I hope you asked all the questions you wanted to ask. Thank you very much. The only other last thing I want to tell you is I just made the deal yesterday. There's a limited edition retro Vampiro doll being made, WCW days with the braids and makeup and all that kind of shit. Once I get the finalized launch date for that, I'll call you up again, man, and tell you about it. I'd be happy. I come to Toronto a lot. If you want, I can get a whole bunch. You can come down and do your show live. We can do some call-ins. We can give the dolls away. I can sign them. We can bring the fans in, all that kind of stuff. So if you're into that, man, I'll hook it up.
That's a very sweet offer. I think.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much.
Just do stuff like that.
Yeah, just get me a bottle of Jägermeister. We're good to go.
That's all it takes. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Earlier.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you for the education, man. I don't think we would have walked out of this knowing as much as we did, and I think sometimes we as fans maybe have to take a CPAC and just relax when it comes to what's out there, not take things so seriously.
Yeah, man, I felt you all nervous. You know what I mean? You just like like I was gonna bite you or something, dude. I'm just another guy just like you. You know what I mean? No, maybe.
But
yeah, man, you guys are doing a good thing, man. Don't stop what you're doing. Don't lose faith. Thank you for doing what you're doing. It's people like you who keep the business alive. And that's the next step, man. On the internet, you guys are the ones who are making us important. We're just, believe me, wrestling's a con. We're just normal guys, dude. You know what I mean? It's just a game, and we're all part of the game. And without you and without the fans, wrestling ain't shit.
Nice. Can you maybe stick around? If we go to commercial, maybe we can talk to Vampiro quietly for just a minute because we have a question for him, John?
Don't go to commercial. Ask me. I got to go to the bathroom. Hurry up.
All right. So I'm a wrestling nerd, and I want to get you to say one thing. A little embarrassed asking this. Is there any way I can get you to say this is Vampiro and you're listening to Main Event Madness?
I'm listening to what?
I said, is there any way I can get you to say this is Vampiro and you're listening to Main Event Madness?
Yeah, man. This is Vampiro and I'm listening to Main Event. I am Vampiro and you are listening to Main Event Madness, motherfucker.
Make sure you get that all, buddy.
Gotta love live radio. All right, Vampiro, thank you very much. Go hit the head, and thank you very much for coming on the show. Greatly appreciate it, man, and we'll definitely talk in the coming weeks and months ahead for sure. And best of luck with Lucha Underground Season 2 and Season 3, and hopefully many, many more seasons to come.
Hell yeah. Thanks, dog.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
All right, guys, that was Lucha Underground announcer Vampiro.
Are you there?
Yes,
I'm here.
I Like, I'm terrified. and it was really hard not to be, because he's so good at what he does that everything that we had thought, he's really laid back. And I didn't want to poke the bear, I think. I had other stuff in mind when it came to WCW, but I don't want to antagonize him, and I felt like if we continued to talk about WCW, it was going to go down the slippery slope, and then, why continue to do that? So it's interesting, though, his perspective on Lucha Underground. Initially, it was like it's hard to tell, but then I think it's going to be hot. It continue to be hot. So, wonder what
I really wanted to jump in on the touring comment he made, because I think, especially as someone that's a huge Lucha fan, I mean, touring would just be over the top. I know that there were rumors that they were planning on trying to do a WrestleMania weekend show, and those fell through. And I can tell you, as someone that lives in Dallas, that would have been a priority WrestleMania weekend to see that show live.
Did you go last year?
To WrestleMania?
Yeah.
I have not been to WrestleMania since Atlanta.
Okay. And with all the shows that are going down there now, and the fact that they have NXT officially announced now, the NXT show there last year was a spur of the moment thing. WWE was like, it was like the Thursday or Friday before WrestleMania. They're like, hey, we're going to do an NXT show. We got everybody here. And I remember a buddy of mine was there. Joel O'Brien, he's one of the hosts of Wrestling's Rope Break. You guys check that out, pwpnation.com, cheap plug. He went to both shows. We had the tough choice. Do we want to go to Ring of Honor, or do we want to go to NXT? So I can only imagine with the Evolve shows. And isn't Ring of Honor doing a show in Dallas WrestleMania weekend too?
Yeah, they sure are. Friday night and Saturday afternoon. It's probably the venue. They're actually doing it at a hotel in downtown Dallas, and it's probably 5 minutes away from everything else that WWE's doing.
Awesome. So imagine that. I mean, I don't know how you'd be able to pick in that predicament. NXT, Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, Evolve. If they were the same day, I mean that I don't know how you'd pick from that.
Well, if you look at the secondary market for the NXT show this year, I think a lot of people have already made their decision.
Are they going for? Are the tickets that high?
I bought. I ended up getting, luckily, face value $20. I'm in the last row of the arena. It's a small arena. It was about 9,000 people. It won't be anything like Brooklyn for NXT. But I got the last row of the arena for face value, $20, and those seats right now are going for $250 on StubHub.
Jesus. I got lucky. It was StubHub, so I probably, if I had gotten them face value, if they went on sale earlier, probably could have got them cheaper. It was only like $75, but it was pretty much the same thing. The last row in the arena, but
Yeah, I have two buddies that missed out on the on sale, and so they bought their tickets on StubHub probably, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes after the actual on sale. And I believe they paid like $110, and so they were kind of mad that they paid $110 for a $20 seat. Now they're looking at it at $250. They're like, "Well, we got it just in time."
WWE is just getting ridiculous with it. I mean, the fact, and I went, and yes, I know AT&T Stadium or whatever the hell it's called is a vast.
The Death Star is what we call it in Dallas.
Huh?
We call it the Death Star in Dallas.
It is a vastly bigger stadium than Levi Stadium. But, general vicinity of the area of seats that I had in Levi, I tried looking in Cowboy Stadium, or Death Star in Dallas. $485, I think, if not over $500, for the same general vicinity of tickets that were $175 in Levi Stadium.
Well, yeah, like I said, the last time I went to WrestleMania was in Atlanta, so it was 27. So, we're only talking 5 years. Mm-hmm. And in Atlanta, I had first row in the second level, and it was $75 face value. For this show in Dallas, I have ninth row in the second level, and they were $207.
And, it's getting ridiculous. And, even the packages for 31 weren't bad. We decided, me and a buddy of mine decided, the 11th hour, It was like the end of December. Hey, I got this money. Well, I got money too. Screw it. We're getting money back from taxes. Let's go to WrestleMania. Okay, why not? So we missed out on the packages, and, a few people had messed with me that we didn't go to the WrestleMania that was in New York City. I live in upstate New York, but I go to the one that's all the way across the country. But the packages this year were ridiculous.
And yet they sell out, though. So, I mean...
oh, my God, they were gone in 5 minutes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, WWE feels they're justified with the prices they're offering because, me personally, this will be my last WrestleMania. I mean, I just can't do these prices anymore. I can't do the, basically having a heart attack trying to get tickets. I missed out on the night after Raw because those were gone, within 10 minutes. And, like I said, paying,
you might still be able to look for that. RazorGator, not trying to, shill a website here, has been a good site for me ticket-wise. You might want to try that one. I've usually gotten somewhat decent deals from that site. I got my Hall of Fame tickets and Hall of Fame and Raw and Access tickets all on that site last year.
Okay. Are you going this year?
I'm not.
Okay.
But, strong rumors the last few weeks that, Orlando might get WrestleMania 33. And my uncle lives in Fort Myers, so...
Okay, yeah, because that changed from Minneapolis, because that was the strong thought for a while with Minneapolis.
Rock being from Minneapolis, too. It would have been a huge show for him. But I'd be kind of curious to see what happened with that they, as quickly and quietly as they did, abandoned Minneapolis. Maybe they just wanted too much money or something, or whatever the deal is with that. But, yeah, I'm kind of hoping Orlando... go one more time and not really have to worry about any travel too bad. I mean, it's only like 4 hours, I think, from Fort Myers to Orlando. So
right, yeah. I mean, this will be my last WrestleMania. I've got tickets to NXT Mania, Jim Ross's one-man show after the Hall of Fame, and then I wasn't going to go to the Hall of Fame, but Sting's longtime favorite wrestler. So when he became the main inductee, I had to get tickets for that. So that pretty much sets my weekend.
Have you ever been to a one-man show for Jim Ross?
I have not. This will be my first one.
Strap yourself in.
Really?
Oh my God, it was fucking hilarious. And at least the one we went to, whether or not he was sober, we don't want to know the answer to that question because he was awesome. But we heard, and this is, what's that, Mark?
No, what had happened from what we've heard is he gets annoyed when it comes to booking questions because it tends to be like sometimes all he gets asked.
Yes, he was asked a few of those, but he wasn't too bad.
That kind of comes to the territory if you're going to be talent relations. I mean, I'm sure he was picturing matches in his head when he was hiring these wrestlers, so I can only imagine the questions he would get.
Well, I think at the same time, when he does it, I don't think he's anticipating it to the exhaust. Like, I guess it comes with the territory, but then at the same time, I guess he gets exhausted being asked it. So maybe he wasn't as responsive. So if you get something where he's annoyed, it's probably because he's been asked maybe even a similar question multiple times, right? So
I got you. Yeah, we got the. It's funny you brought up. You don't want to know if he was drunk or not, because that's actually why we got the tickets for the 11 p.m. show after Hall of Fame, because we figure him and whoever his guest will be should be pretty lively for that show.
See, you got the polar opposite of what I had. I had heading into the Hall of Fame, and he was going to the Hall of Fame also, obviously. So, he had to behave himself a little bit. But
I gotcha.
You knew you were in for a wild show when the first thing that his MC says is expect a lot of jokes about Ric Flair's penis. It's the first thing he says, and the whole crowd starts laughing. It's like, all right, well, this is gonna be a fun one, and it was pretty awesome. He had some of the guests he had there. I can't remember all of them offhand. He had Michelle Beadle was there. That was pretty cool. Got a picture with her. Got to talk to her for a minute. And then Samoa Joe was his guest.
Oh, that's nice.
And it was funny. Just pay attention when he's doing the show. If he comes up with like some snarky comment, that might be when he introduces his guest. Like he did it for that show, and he's like, damn it, is anybody going to turn up the air conditioning in here? It's hot in here. Has anybody got a damn towel? He's like, yeah, we'll find you a towel. Somebody find Jim a towel. And then Samoa Joe's music hit, and he walks out with his towel on. So, but I'll tell you, his shows are awesome.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, especially being that Saturday night show.
And it being an 11 o'clock show.
Yeah, that should be pretty good.
You know the worst part about that day, but it's the best part at the same time. And I love how we had a whole litany of topics, Maybe we'll run into some overtime here. But we were at the Friday NXT show, didn't start till 10 o'clock West Coast time.
This year starts at 10 o'clock Central Time.
Oh, God. Is it going to be televised this year, do you know?
Yes, it is. It's a takeover event.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. And the fact I was just talking to Mark about that, too.
It actually works out perfectly for me because doors open at 9, and I got the premium VIP ticket to meet Sting at 7, so I can get done with that by 8 and just run across the hallway to the NXT show.
So the NXT show started at 10 o'clock West Coast time, was supposed to go an hour and a half. That's what everybody was told. We're going to go an hour and a half, 2 hours tops. 1:30 we're getting out of the...
oh my God.
Out of the arena. Yeah. Because it was such a makeshift show. And it was just awesome because, Hideo Itami hit the GTS for the first time in America and the first time in WWE.
Yep, I remember seeing it on YouTube.
Triple H comes out and cut a big promo. I think we had Dana Brooks' debut, if I'm not mistaken, too. So,
yeah, I mean, not giving away any spoilers, obviously, but I do know that since it is a takeover event for the network, I know that they've signed 6 matches. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the matches, or when you find out the matches as NXT goes along, that show's going to be at least 2.5 hours.
At least. And what are the odds, you think, that we get the Bullet Club? Gallows and Anderson. What are the odds you think they pop up as a surprise, as a mini, post-Mania Raw kind of thing? Or no, actually, aren't they going main roster?
I've heard both.
I don't know if they've all got main roster deals. I think that's what Aaron was saying. Something to the effect of Gallows and Anderson having main roster deals. But then Nakamura's pending some sort of physical right now. So
he might back out of it. He might come in for the NXT match. But, he put a thing on Twitter how he was, drastically disappointed that Bryan retired. Because, he's like, that's the whole reason I came to WWE was to wrestle Daniel Bryan. So, I wonder, he signed for the match at TakeOver. I wonder, with Bryan retired now, if that's the reason he came in, if that's going to be a one and done. Stranger things have happened in the world of wrestling.
It happened with... Liger, right? He came in for the one match against Tyler Breeze at a NXT TakeOver event. You didn't see him after that, but it was also during the same time as a weekend of a Ring of Honor show. Just funny the timing in which they bring in some New Japan stars.
Yeah. But anyway, really quick before we move on from that. So the show didn't get out till 1:30. We had to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning and had a half an hour drive from that arena back to our hotel. Had to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning for access for 4 hours, and then Jim Ross's show, then the Hall of Fame. That was a very long day. But
yeah, I've been there. I'm looking forward. I should say I'm not looking forward to that this year because I've got Friday and Saturday. I've got the same thing. Friday I've got WrestleCon and then Access, and then run straight over to NXT, which probably won't get out till midnight, 1 o'clock. Then Saturday, do it all over again, WrestleCon, Hall of Fame, and then Jim Ross at 11 o'clock.
While you're at WrestleCon, and speaking to anybody listening who's going to WrestleCon, make sure to see Evan Ginzburg, who's going to be representing Main Event Madness at WrestleCon. So, just a little bit of a cheap shill there. He's going to be doing an autograph signing from 10 to 4 Friday. It's Saturday and Sunday, right?
Friday and Saturday,
I'm sorry. Friday and Saturday, 10 to 4. Make sure you guys go see Evan Ginzburg, the associate producer of the Oscar-nominated film The Wrestler, who'll be joining us in a little bit for another edition of Ginzburg's Gab. Mark, I think I gabbed, pun intended. up the rest of your time. Do you have to bounce, or do you got a little bit of time?
Well, I've got a few more minutes, right? We're gonna maybe just wrap things up until we get to commercial.
Sure.
But did we touch on the Titus O'Neil question?
We did not. Would you like to talk about that?
I see. It's funny. It's almost it's awkward the way it came across. I guess if you had the chance to watch the post Daniel Bryan retirement, and you were following along on the WWE Network, it was a situation that had happened where Bryan was heading towards the back. All the wrestlers had moved out of the way as he moved towards the back, and then as the camera's panning away, Vince McMahon is pulled at by Titus O'Neil. Now today, it happens to come about that he's been suspended, 90 days, something based around this incident. But on the surface, it looked like it was all jovial and fun. I don't know the legitimacy of that. I don't know what anyone else maybe thinks, if it's as valid as it's being made out to be, or how because it went to air and how it was perceived on television, that it was made into a bigger deal behind the scenes. What do you guys think about it?
Go ahead, Kurt.
I'm still, when we talk about this, don't be surprised if I'm at a loss for words, because I find it so hard to believe that someone could basically fail a drug test twice and get suspended for 60 days. And then when you watch this video and you see that Titus O'Neil was clearly playing around and just, trying to, be lighthearted with his boss, and that gets him 90 days and off of WrestleMania. And of course, he probably would have only been on the Battle Royal, but still, that's WrestleMania.
Well, it's like I mentioned, Mark and I were talking a little while ago, and I wonder if it's something, and I'd asked another reporter for another website, and he said he didn't think it was a wellness, but I wonder if it's a wellness violation, coupled with, maybe there was something else that happened after the show went off the air, Maybe they viewed it as, some kind of like disrespect or something towards Bryan. I don't know. I don't want to, put words in their mouth, but, and Mark didn't really think that, that was plausible at first, but, the only thing I could think of is they want to push Titus to the moon and back about 8 dozen times. So my thought process was, maybe it was a wellness and, this was an excuse to cover it up with something else and be like, hey, you shouldn't have done that out there and you flunked the test. So we're going to, you're off for 90 days, but we're not going to reveal it's a wellness. Because, that's
a really interesting thought, because, let's not forget that even before this happened, he did lose to Adam Rose earlier in the night. So, typically if you're busted on the wellness, if you're on your way out, they're going to have you lose to help somebody else out.
Mm-hmm. So,
obviously WWE hasn't released an official statement yet, so we don't know for sure, but I could definitely see that being plausible.
Mark, and he'd agree. What's that, Mark?
It ends up being a bit of a PR nightmare, since there was so much build around Titus O'Neil being Dad of the Year, and all the human humanitarian work and their contributions, and having Titus out there as a face. It ends up being a bit of a black eye if you end up saying that, again, it is a wellness issue, when there were all these other things that he was a part of that was supposed to be family friendly, right?
Yeah.
Hardly would the Dad of the Year end up being suspended for a wellness issue. You start questioning, how is this man representing Father of the Year, right? So,
well, and it's that, and all the goodwill and all the good PR and everything, to your point, that he's brought the WWE. And then you look at a guy like Randy Orton, which, yes, I know that, there's a drastic difference, in positioning between Titus O'Neil and Randy Orton, but if they want to push Titus as a big singles guy, then it is a conversation you should have, when Randy Orton should have been fired. If we're going by the wellness policy, the rules in it, Randy Orton has violated it, I think, 4 or 5 times since 2005, when it was implemented after Eddie's death. 06 once, 06 twice, and I mean, no, 06 twice, 07, he, 05 once, and, 07, he was part of, I don't know if you guys remember, the Signature Pharmacy Bus, the big underground steroid ring. They had mentioned, it led to basically the downfall of Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, sure did.
And, that would have made Kennedy arguably the biggest star in WWE. At least heel star at the time. I don't know if you guys were familiar with that whole storyline that they were going.
I was a huge Mr. Kennedy fan, so that's still a bitter memory in my mind. Because obviously everyone. I think everyone remembers the fact that they switched it to Hornswoggle being Vince's illegitimate son. But if that had played the course it was supposed to, yeah, Mr. Kennedy would have been a top star.
They switched it to Hornswoggle from Mr. Kennedy, and not before a little nod to Vince McMahon's strange obsession, if you will, with incest, where they tease it being Triple H.
Right.
But nonetheless, guys, we rambled too much, and I apologize, Mark. I didn't mean to cut you off as much as I did and not let you talk too much. But for you, sir, what is coming up for Mark Madison on The Richest and on TGR Wrestling? Or just personally in general, what's coming up for Mark Madison this week?
Well, other than recovering from a hockey stick to the nose, I'm going to be fine. But over the next couple days, I'm going to actually have something coming out on The Richest. I was hoping this was going to be out tonight, but it'll probably be tomorrow. Capitalizing on Valentine's, it's going to be 11 wrestlers who brought the love. We're going to explore different wrestlers who either use sex or teasing the idea of being suggestively love machines and having fun with that. I've also have right now the 10 worst wrestling gimmicks of the 1980s. It's subjective, but again, probably could have hit more than 10. And as far as TGR Wrestling, I'm going to explore, actually, the results of Royal Rumble, the fallout, and looking into WrestleMania. It seems like there's a whole bunch of different directions, but they're not really pointing in any one direction because everything seems to hinge on one thing or another. So it'd be interesting to see where things go, and we're going to explore, again, the Royal Rumble fallout and the prognosis moving into WrestleMania.
Awesome stuff, man. Sounds like some great reads coming up. But I got to play this really quick. You said love machines for WWE?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The world's largest love machine.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was the first thing that came out.
Well, and he will be a part of the list, so you just have to find out who the other 10 are.
You gotta have the Punjabi Playboy in there.
Not all are WWE related, but some are more prevalent than others, and some actually are touring more so on the independent circuit. You don't have to be necessarily the most thoughtful guy to be considered a love machine. But again, one of the guys that is going to be on the list is pretty prominent, was in TNA, towards the independent scene. Kurt might know who I'm referring to, as well as you are. I don't want to say names, but...
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Sorry?
I said spoiler alert. He has, if it's who I'm thinking, his big move lately involves his penis.
Yeah, exactly who I'm thinking, right? Again, not necessarily somebody you want to take home to mom and dad, but,
You never know.
I'm sure to kill.
But, come on. eBay. I hate Skype.
So, guys, I guess we'll get a chance to chat sooner rather than later. I'd like to thank you guys for taking part. I'm going to be heading off. Kurt and John will be taking part sooner and finishing off the balance of the show, and we're going to be having, hopefully, Mr. Ginzburg joining you soon.
That is the reason I hate Skype.
Maybe let's run to commercial so we'll get a chance to have Evan log back on.
Yeah, I'm going to try to figure out something. Guys, we're going to hit a commercial break here, as Mark said. Mark, take it easy, brother. We will talk soon. And we'll be back here, guys,
Take care. All the best.
Just a moment.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here?
Yes.
Okay. Never mind, guys. We won't be hitting a commercial break because we are now joined by the associate producer of the Oscar-nominated film, The Wrestler. You can see him each and every week on MadhouseTV.com, on Legends TV, of course, LegendsTVNYC.com. You can also check him out, as I mentioned before, at WrestleCon from 10 to 4 p.m. on Friday and Saturday before WrestleMania, who will be representing Main Event Madness. This is Evan Ginzburg with a new edition of Ginzburg's Gab. Evan, hello, sir.
Hello, and
to the newbie.
What's that?
I said, and hello to the newbie. We got Kurt Zamora. He's a writer for TGRWrestling.net also. He's our first audition for our second co-host spot.
There you go.
Good to talk to you.
Same here.
So I'm doing my best. I'm trying to get my introductions for you better each and every week.
I think it's beautiful. It's a work of art. Thank you.
It's all your teachings. It's all your teachings.
What's that?
I said it's all from your teachings.
Oh, thanks. So you're experiencing some technical difficulties, huh?
Oh yeah, this is a throwback to the earlier days of Main Event Madness, and if Al's listening right now, he knows exactly what the hell I'm talking about. I want to take a brick to my computer, kind of like Mick Foley did to his TV after the Royal Rumble last year.
I'll tell you some funny radio stories real quick. I was on 50,000 watt WBAI FM 99.5 in New York for 16 years, and we're up there, and all of a sudden the lights are out and there's no sound. It was a brownout in New York, so we're in the radio station with guests sitting in the dark, and Fred Giabold, who was my radio mentor, who passed, he says, "We have no sound." So I've been there. Believe me, I did a TV show a few months back, and the last 20 minutes had no sound. You do 150 shows, and 149 come out beautifully, and there's certain things you can't control, and you can't beat yourself up over it.
It's depressing a little bit because we had such a good run of shows without any technical difficulties, but there is a moral to this story. Kurt, do you want to know what the moral of the story is?
That you're trying to scare me off of Skype forever since this is my first time doing it?
Well, besides that, and remember, you can't push us or you'll be suspended for 90 days.
Right.
So, Kurt, for those of us who are not aware, tell us about TGIF.
What?
The restaurant or the old ABC sitcom block?
The website you work for.
TJ.
Oh, TJF. Okay, yeah. TGIF would probably get us more hits because people think.
Well, whatever it is. Yeah.
I just do the NXT recap for TJR, and then I do a monthly editorial for the website.
And what is the website for the listeners who don't know, like myself?
TJRWrestling.net.
Okay. And what does the TGR stand for?
The John Report.
Yeah, it's after their owner,
John Canton.
Yes.
At John Report on Twitter.
Okay. You see, when people give out letters, they assume everybody knows what it is. Okay.
You can actually buy a TJR t-shirt on ProWrestlingTees.com. Not to do a shameless plug for my owner, but I might as well.
Hey, there you go. Good. If you're not going to promote yourself, who's going to promote it?
That's true.
So
can I do a real quick plug?
What the hell do you have left to plug that I didn't already plug?
I have a wrestler friend whose mom is retired in a wheelchair, about to be evicted tomorrow. She's very ill. If she's thrown in the street, she's going to die. And the wrestler's name is Eric Adams. It's totally legit. I gave, my wife gave, my friends gave. And if anybody would like to help, even $1, whatever, it's GoFundMe.com/I5K9SO. That would be the URL. GoFundMe.com/I5K9SO if you want to do a good deed. This woman's an ex-cop. and it's not a good scenario. And worked for the New York City Police Department, I should say. So anyway, with that out of the way.
Way to make me feel like a jerk for messing with you about plugs.
Oh, no. I've been relentlessly posting this for like 24 hours, and I'm numb, so if I didn't get the letters of your website right, don't take it personally. I'm like numb from this. I've been just frantically trying to keep this woman off the street,
Now, don't get him wrong, Kurt.
Yeah.
He's normally numb because he watched 5 minutes of Monday Night Raw.
Well, aren't we all?
I mean, you're not wrong.
Well, since you mentioned it,
here we go.
Any reactions to the Titus O'Neil situation?
We were just talking about it, and we'll get your thoughts too. We were discussing the possibility of whether or not it could be a wellness, maybe compounded with some kind of backstage incident, whether or not it was the little hug or whatever it was after Bryan's promo, or maybe it was something backstage, which.
Well, I watched it live. I switched from Raw to the WWE Network, and I watched the rest of Bryan's exit from the arena. And all of a sudden, you see McMahon get angry and push somebody. At the time, we didn't realize it was him, and it looked legit. He looked sincere. He looked angry, and in hindsight, I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but, I think Titus got caught up in all the emotion and the excitement, and he probably had a good relationship with McMahon and, grabbed him to hug him, and McMahon did not appreciate, one of the hired help touching the king, and I don't think he reacted well to it, but to suspend somebody for months when they're not making much more money than a New York City school teacher at the top of the pay scale, is pretty reprehensible considering it was meant innocently. Titus didn't punch him in the face. The whole thing really rubbed me the wrong way. And it's too bad because I've been watching wrestling since 1972 and attending since 1974. And the Daniel Bryan goodbye was one of the most beautiful, powerful, emotional, inspirational things I've ever seen in pro wrestling. So, ironically, you'll also see the ugly side of McMahon.
To give the devil his due. I mean, I get, it could have been, as innocent enough as wanting to give him a hug, but at the same time, I mean, I don't know. I kind of think, it's time and a place, and you guys are out there for Bryan, not for McMahon. McMahon wants to walk in the back.
I don't know if you saw this, but I just came across it. Someone actually tweeted Batista, who we know is a really good friends with Titus O'Neil, and they basically said, do something about this, the way they're treating Titus with this incident. And Batista actually replied, and he tweeted, "I did something better. I called Titus O'Neil and told him to ask to be released."
Wow.
Batista, yeah, Batista.
So clearly it probably is something as simple as that hug, and there's nothing more to it if Batista heard the story and told him to ask for a release.
You want to know something? Batista, who is far from a great wrestler, has gone on to much bigger and better things, as a movie star, and where your career can last much, much longer. In wrestling, as you saw with Daniel Bryan, the body, or in his case, the brain, will give out at some point, and it's not the worst suggestion. I mean, Titus O'Neil is a huge guy, and what do people shoot for in Hollywood today? Franchise action films, so he'd be absolutely ideal, I don't think you necessarily have to leave pro wrestling. Leaving WWE is not leaving pro wrestling.
That's definitely a get for TNA right there. TNA or Global Force.
Yeah, TNA could grab him, or New Japan, or Ring of Honor, or whoever, and he could pursue the acting. And if Batista's his buddy, I'm sure he could open some doors for him. And your life as a wrestler, especially the insane moves that they do today. Back in the day, I'm a little older than you guys. Pat Patterson would come into, let's say, WWF 1979, and the guy's around 40. Okay, today these guys are ending their careers before that, around that time. These guys back then, their careers would peak at 35 or 40. And, I used to see guys in their 50s. In their 50s who were still big deals back then. Nick Bockwinkel, guys like that, because they weren't doing the same insane moves that they're doing today. And career-ending moves. And when you have a laundry list of guys who are hurt, who are out, here's another thing. I just want to say it, and this has nothing to do with race, okay? If Randy Orton or John Cena did that to McMahon, I'm betting they would not have been suspended without pay for months at a time. I'm betting, and I'm not. This has nothing to do with race. Who's where on the totem pole? That rubbed me the wrong way. And if you take it, like I said before, Titus O'Neil is not making huge money. So when you lose 2 months' pay or whatever it is, some people say 3, some people say 2. That's a big hit. It's a big hit, and I don't think it warrants the action. See, me as a different temperament, code, not an egomaniac, I might have said, if I were the boss, listen, Titus, I have a certain image. I don't like to get too affectionate on camera. I hope you understand, as opposed to you're out for 2 months. Different way of handling things.
I don't want to make it about race either, but it's hard not to think about the fact we talked earlier about Titus O'Neil's contributions to the charity work that WWE does and how much he does for the company on that front. And as far as my calendar says, it's February 10th, which means we're right smack dab in the middle of Black History Month. Mm-hmm. And this is what Titus O'Neil gets for it.
I think my gut instinct tells me this was not about race, but my gut instinct tells me that if you look at WWE over the past half century, WWF, tri-WF, generally the black wrestlers had every horrible stereotype, from hard heads to, every one of them's dancing. I shouldn't say everyone, but the majority dancing in the ring, and it's almost the perception of a rich guy from Connecticut. What they did to Tony Atlas was insane. Saba Simba, insane, especially since everybody knew him as Tony Atlas to begin with. And
Ron Simmons as Farouk Assad with the blue helmet.
It's not a rich history. I mean, every once in a while you get a guy like Ernie Ladd who just came in as a headline guy where the race was not the gimmick, which was to Vince McMahon Sr.'s credit. But generally they played upon every stereotype imaginable. And
there was one exception, that I can think of off the top of my head. And even Booker T, they, had all those promos, whether or not that was him or whether or not that was McMahon writing them, that, were like kind of stereotypical. But Bobby Lashley was the one exception that I can think of off the top of my head, at least in recent memory, that came in that wasn't given any of stereotypes, that was basically pushed and pushed and pushed to the moon. He was going to, he was pegged to be like a John Cena. And then he quits WWE because Michael Hayes is racist towards him. And it's been well documented that, Michael Hayes was, refused to book him because he was black. And, there are a lot of issues between Lashley and Hayes and Bobby Lashley's then, I don't know if it was wife or girlfriend or whoever Crystal was to him at that time. And Bobby's like, all right, yeah, I'm done. Bye. And it just sucks, But I want to get both of you guys' opinion. Could this actually be a precedent for WWE? Could this be, they overturn everything else lately because of fan outcry? Could this be the first overturned suspension?
I hope so. Look, you have certain policies, you have certain images. It is a billion-dollar corporation, and I could understand. He's the boss, and you don't just grab him. If I could understand that, and he's probably not the most touchy-feely guy to begin with. At the same time, does the punishment fit the crime? And that's far from a crime. The guy is clearly a good-hearted guy. He does all kinds of charities. He's Father of the Year. I mean, what more could you ask? A more glowing representative for your company, and
unless, I don't mean to cut you off, Evan. Unless, maybe there was something else that happened that we don't know about. I mean, it is distinctly possible. Maybe there was some other kind of incident backstage that maybe somewhat warrants a 90-day suspension. I can't quite figure out what, but
my question with all of this is, you're working for a company. You're sacrificing your body day in, day out, day in, day out. You'll have guys in some insane tables, ladders, and chairs match on a Sunday night pay-per-view, and they're back killing themselves Monday night on Raw, and they're back on the road the next night. I mean, why do they have to live in fear of, I'm losing my spot, I must work hurt, or they'll push somebody else. Daniel Bryan reportedly had seizures and didn't want to tell people. Why do you have to be concerned that a company that should care about you because you're giving 110% and your body and your heart and soul and sacrificing your family life and everything in between to be on the road 250 days a year? Why do you have to worry, oh my God, I did this little thing, I said this little thing, I tweeted something, and all of a sudden, all the good things I did is negated, and now I'm in the doghouse, I'm pushed down, I'm jobbing on main event instead of, headlining on Raw or whatever the case may be. It's an ugly business. And Ring of Honor, I love Ring of Honor, and if you look at the black wrestlers in Ring of Honor, nobody's doing any stereotypical nonsense. They're pushed through the roof. They're just treated like anybody else. The color is irrelevant. Absolutely
Jay
irrelevant.
Lethal's been Jay Lethal, aside from the Black Machismo gimmick, for the last better part of 15 years, Ring of Honor's letting him do his thing, but
if you go up and down the card, there's just tons of black wrestlers, coming out with dignity and just wrestling.
You say Ring of Honor, and I automatically think of, if Titus O'Neil was to ever go there, I automatically think of him and Moose as an unstoppable tag team, or even a Phoenix. That would be fantastic.
There you go. Moose is a little green, Titus is a little green, but together, they could be the next Harlem Heat or Doom or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. Two huge guys, and there's some charisma there. I mean, they definitely need honing, but no doubt, I totally agree. So,
I think to answer your question, John, about could this be a suspension that gets overturned by crowd reaction? Even if it could be, I think the damage has been done because. This is the headline that Titus O'Neil is getting now. Obviously, it's everywhere that Titus O'Neil is suspended for putting his hands on Vince McMahon. And if people just see that headline, they automatically assume the worst if they don't watch the actual video. Whereas, Titus O'Neil should be getting the headlines for what he does for the homeless, feeding the homeless. There was a story that barely made the rounds a couple months ago. I think it was during SummerSlam, if I'm not mistaken, where he fed 50 homeless people at a restaurant and footed the bill for all of them and gave them a great meal. Things like that should be lauded, and in fact, he should be pushed for actions like that. I know on a SmackDown a couple weeks ago, they kind of made mentions of him bringing some students in from the Tampa area for the SmackDown taping, but I mean, that was the only thing they've ever mentioned on TV. So it's a shame that I think the damage has been done for him, that this is the headline he gets instead of the headlines he should be getting for what he does outside the ring.
I agree. I totally agree. And
I got an announcement to make here in a minute, Evan, and then we'll get to what's coming up this week on Legends TV. But just a real quick point before I get to that. It should say something to Vince and to the creative team at WWE when the heir apparent in Triple H, who's doing wonders in NXT versus, how the main product is being positioned, booked, and so on. When one of his best friends is coming out and one of the most iconic WWE stars of the last decade comes out and is bashing them, and I saw a tweet from Batista earlier that said, same bullshit from creative that there always is. And the guy who signed a 2-year contract with WWE in 2014 was there for 3 months and saw the creative, and he's like, yeah, I'm done. So to me, I think that speaks volumes. I don't know if
I agree with you wholeheartedly, 100%. 100%.
The more you watch wrestling, okay, the harder so-called creative, I don't find them particularly creative, work, the more harm they do. What you saw with Daniel Bryan on WWE, what you saw with Nakamura when he left New Japan, which was almost as emotional, very powerful, real, okay? Why not just let these guys wrestle for the most part? Hype the big, main event on the next pay-per-view, whatever the case may be. But the endless skits and stilted dialogue and nonsense and the announcers just chattering over inane minutia. I mean, let it be. Let them wrestle. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite as powerful as what I saw with Daniel Bryan the other night, and it was real and it was unscripted and it was from the heart. And these guys are working too hard. It's just let AJ Styles wrestle somebody great for 20 minutes and just let it be.
Let's not call him a redneck rookie.
Yeah. I heard Jericho pins him, which is pretty ridiculous. Also, the aging veteran who's and I love Jericho. Don't get me wrong, but traditionally the star whose better days are behind him would put over the newer, younger guy, and I don't quite understand that unless they're going to have a rubber match at WrestleMania where Styles wins, which would make sense. But other than that, why would you have him pinned when you're trying to push the guy through the roof? I don't get it.
It's typical WWE, but announcement time, and then we'll get to what's coming up on Legends TV next week. Been tweeting throughout the show. A former world champion wrestler will be on the show next week, and we have he's currently with Global Force Wrestling. He's a former TNA world champion, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he is the current Global Force Wrestling heavyweight champion, and that is Magnus. Nick Aldis will be on the show next week. So a pretty big, huh?
That's great.
Pretty big get for us to get a current world champion. Do you know if that's correct, Kurt?
I believe you're right on that. I know that even though they don't have TV clearance in America, I know they've done some title changes already, but I'm pretty sure his is stuck and he's still the world champion.
So to get a world champion of a company and a former world champion of TNA, it is an awesome get, and very excited for you guys to hear the interview. So
Great pure talent, too.
Yes, and
Kurt, by the way, I just want to say that unlike myself, you have a very good radio voice. I've been doing radio since 1990, and you have a very good radio voice. And
I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, you must have a good one if you made it since '90. I mean, don't count yourself.
No. I just speak from the heart. I sound like any guy from Brooklyn. You have a very professional radio voice, and
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, seriously, you should pursue it. Definitely.
great stuff to hear there, man. It's a good seal of approval right there. But
I'll take it.
Nonetheless, Magnus Nick Aldis will be on the show next week, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll have the interview for you guys.
Oh, yeah, great.
That is a good one.
Very excited for you guys to hear that interview. It was a very awesome interview, and to thank you to Nick Aldis. He was in the car, I believe, with his wife and his son. So to take time out and to chat with us was greatly appreciated. It was an awesome interview. Mark did a great job. So you guys are going to really enjoy that interview next week. So, but that's next week. So for this week, what's coming up on Legends TV on Saturday?
I have Wardell Piper from First Choice, million-selling recording artist. I have Sir Style, very colorful wrestling personality and actor. He's in the show Gotham. If you ever want him on the show, I certainly can get him on Main Event Madness. Interesting guy, great talker, heel manager, old school. His entire head is tattooed like Bam Bam Bigelow, and very colorful guy. And also Todd from the Bush, indie rapper, and his wife Cole Hansen, who's an indie singer, and both of them are personal trainers as well. So you'll get some health and diet and exercise tips. So an eclectic mix, as we like to say, from million-selling artists to colorful wrestlers and a poet thrown in as well. So that's what we do. It's like the Joe Franklin for the 21st century.
I often say it here on the show, and Kurt, if you're new to Legends TV, nowhere else that I know of can you watch a TV show, learn something, and see a very, very intelligent and compelling conversation between, a rapper, a wrestler, and, say, a porn star.
Yeah. The other day, we had a poet, a wrestler, and a million-selling recording artist sitting on the couch together, and the wrestler's wild-looking. So it's not your typical talk variety show.
That sounds like the answer to one of those questions where they say, "What 4 people would you want to have dinner with?"
Well, I always say that my dream lineup for a TV show would be you get like an ex-president and an ex-porn queen and like Abdullah the Butcher, and just put them on the panel together and just let them talk about anything. I think that would be amazing.
Very nice.
That's on my bucket list.
I like it.
By the way, I was doing Bruce Hart's show a few weeks ago. Heartbeat Radio. You guys would enjoy that. And there was some kind of tech issue, like you guys were having, and they said, "Evan, why don't you call up Abdullah the Butcher for us and tell us we disconnected him?" It was so surreal, because I remember as a kid, this guy was fearsome, and you're like calling up his house, and "Hello, sir." It's pretty interesting. So anyway.
Evan, thank you very much, sir. We got a few news topics we're gonna hit into. We're gonna be hitting into overtime. We're gonna hit a commercial break. So thank you very much for coming on this week, and I'm sure we'll be talking probably after the show like we usually do.
My pleasure, and Kurt, you're a great addition to the show, and tell Mark my criticisms of Vince McMahon were merged with great praise to Vince McMahon for the Daniel Bryan segment. I just try to be honest. So anyway, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Evan. We'll talk about
Thanks, Evan. If I don't talk to you beforehand, I'll see you at WrestleCon.
Oh, great. Okay, I'll be with Greg Valentine and Tito Santana. Come by and say hello.
Fantastic.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, guys, so as I said, Main Event Madness is going into overtime. We're going to hit a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we got a lot of things to talk about, including CM Punk and his never-ending list of excuses as to why he's not fighting in UFC yet. What else? John Cena. Could he finally be turning heel? It's not the usual argument, Kurt. We'll talk about that.
I'm
And
looking forward to that one.
if time permits, maybe a little bit about Finn Balor and Rey Mysterio. So, guys, don't go anywhere. Main Event Madness is hitting overtime. We'll be back in just a few minutes. From the associate producer of The Wrestler, and in the tradition of Joe Franklin and Ed Sullivan variety talk shows, Evan Ginzburg's Legends TV features an eclectic mix of legendary million-selling musicians, indie artists deserving greater exposure, and colorful pro wrestlers. Co-hosted by Steve Ludwig of Classic Pop Culture Radio, the show airs live every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern at MadhouseTV.com and LegendsTVNYC.com. Martha Wash, Crown Heights Affair, Lanny Poffo, Nicole Bass, and other legends have joined us. You missed the birth of your mother and father. Don't you dare miss Evan Ginzburg's Legends TV. So you decided to check out Main Event Madness, and now you want to know how you can get the latest news about the show, the hosts, guests, showtimes, and more? Well, the answer's simple. Facebook. Head over to Facebook.com/Main Event Madness and be a part of the hundreds who have already liked the page and are the first to know everything you can ask about Main Event Madness. Facebook.com/Main Event Madness, the official Facebook page for Main Event Madness Radio. Life's about working. Life's about progress. Why not put them together? Well, we did. Working Progress is here, the Fans View podcast. Matt Brees and Mike Rooker take the latest news and rumors in the world of pro wrestling and add in some NFL and more, and add a fantasy spin to it, and you get Working Progress every month, only on MEMnetwork.wix.com/home. From the ashes of our old website comes a fresh new face from Main Event Madness. MEM Network is here. Check out all of your favorite episodes of Main Event Madness, Working Progress, Wrestling's Rope Break, and Evan Ginzburg's Legends TV. More shows to be announced in the future, but check out MEMnetwork.wix.com/home, where the madness runs wild. Okay, now we're coming out of a commercial break like we normally do. That felt a little bit better like I was riding a bike from, not for the first time. Wheels didn't fall off, everything's good. We're back here, ladies and gentlemen, on Main Event Madness Radio, February 10th edition of the broadcast. Do not adjust your computer speakers. We are in overtime. And thank you guys for taking time out of your night to come chat with us. If you guys really want to, go ahead over to Twitter, at John MEM Radio for me, and at Frisco K-Tank for, the man who's auditioning to be a co-host with us, Mr. Kurt Zamora. Give him a follow on Twitter as well.
Please.
So, we got a fun thing to talk about here, and I know you've been licking your chops wanting to talk about this one.
Oh, yeah.
So, guys, if you've all been living under a rock, Mr. Voice of the Voiceless, CM Punk, is a UFC fighter, if you guys have been living under a rock, which I'm pretty sure if you guys are listening to me, most of you aren't. And he's been a UFC fighter for almost 2 years now. You realize that? At least he's been under contract with UFC for 2 years and has yet to fight yet.
Now that you said 2 years, you're right, but I guess with all this nonsense, I didn't believe it was already 2 years.
Which is the crazy part, because I think it was, I'm going to look it up really quick. I want to know. But it's been excuse after excuse after excuse that CM Punk won't be fighting. I'm not ready. Oh, but I'm ready, but I'm not ready. Oh, I'm not ready. And then Dana White playing fuck around and, not knowing who he wants to fight. Good luck ever getting these guys on the show now. But Dana White playing fuck around with who he wants to have him face. My opinion, you should have just had him go after, Punk was fighting in a heavyweight division in WWE. Let him fight in the heavyweight division in UFC. Let him go fight Cain Velasquez. I think he'd get killed, but CM Punk underwent or is undergoing back surgery. Reportedly, will only miss 4 to 6 weeks, but nonetheless,
I haven't heard the timeline yet. It was 4 to 6 weeks.
Yes, that's what I saw earlier when I saw something. It was only in a post on Facebook, so I don't know how accurate that is.
Okay.
But, Kurt, point blank, will CM Punk ever fight in the UFC?
Before I answer that question, the reason I want to talk about this so much is because, first of all, I don't know if you saw on the ESPN article that came out about this, but he's blaming this on wrestling, which just seems so petty of him to do that.
Daniel Bryan just had to retire from injury. I'm going to capitalize on that.
Exactly.
So somebody should just tell him to take his Z-Pack and he'll be good to go.
Yep, I wanted to tweet that to him, but I'm pretty sure I'm blocked by him.
Are you?
I'm pretty sure I am.
What'd you tweet him to get blocked?
Who knows with him? I probably said something along the lines of, he's a jerk and his wife doesn't sign autographs, and I got blocked for that.
Wait, his wife didn't? Oh, what was that, Mania?
It was at actually a house show in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She didn't want to sign autographs, and she didn't want to be touched. It was very awkward. And so I believe I tweeted at her that she must have learned that from her husband, and I added him on the tweet, and I think I got blocked for that. But
at least
to answer your
question,
though, he's not. To me, he will fight in UFC probably once. I think that he's going to get his ass kicked, and where he goes from there, I have no idea. He may fade off into the sunset. I mean, the comic book thing, I guess, is going well for him, so maybe he'll do that full time. But this has been nothing short of a charade. And if I'm Dana White, the appeal of CM Punk was to get him to fight as soon as possible after the way he left WWE, because he had all that momentum, all the fan support, that was on CM Punk's side. And now that's all gone away. It's funny enough, it reminds me a lot of how Eric Bischoff butchered Bret Hart coming into WCW. You want to capitalize on momentum, all the fans supporting Bret Hart and how he was treated, and then he comes in and he's the special guest referee for Larry Zbyszko and Scott Hall. It just doesn't make any sense. And so now with all these injuries already with CM Punk, just in training, this really just seems like a waste of time now for Dana White. And I wonder, with this setback now, how much interest Dana White actually has in CM Punk's first fight now.
I'm a big fan of conspiracy theories, and if you can hear me smirking a little bit, whatchamacallit, conspiracy theories, what? I have no idea what that one just said. Apparently, CM Punk's makes somebody's balls itch. All right, then.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's all about the feels. But wrestling conspiracy theories are eerie and hilarious. There is no medium in there. And what if Dana White and Vince McMahon were working something out? You want us to be a UFC fighter, let him go to UFC. We ain't going to let him fucking fight. But you know what? We'll let him think he will. Then he's going out for back surgery, claiming it's for wrestling, and then Dana White be like, "Hey, you didn't fulfill your part of your obligations for this contract. We're voiding your contract." Stranger things have happened.
That wouldn't surprise me in the least. Not even a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, especially because Dana and Vince were almost going to work together with Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker at the WrestleMania you went to. They almost did.
Right.
Stranger things have happened in wrestling, guys. Bret Hart came back to WWE. Hell, the freaking Ultimate Warrior came back to WWE.
Bruno Sammartino
came back to WWE. Macho Man
is Billy Graham is now back with WWE after everything he was saying over the last couple of years.
Who's that?
Superstar Billy Graham.
Superstar Billy Graham. Hell, fucking Macho Man Randy Savage, after he screwed Stephanie 20 years ago, is in the Hall of Fame. I mean, come on.
That's my favorite rumor in wrestling, I think.
Huh?
I think that's my favorite rumor in wrestling. Is Macho Man and Stephanie McMahon.
Oh, and how, God rest his soul, Macho Man got to die with the last laugh.
Oh, I know, right?
I don't know if you remember it. Like, he cut these promos in a gym somewhere, saying, "Oh yeah, Triple H, I'll kick your ass because I fucked your girl before you even got here, brother." And Triple H never got a chance to retort that.
Of course not.
I don't know if you saw these, and I apologize for the horrible Macho Man impression, but
I don't know if I ever saw them, but I definitely remember hearing about those because it took a life of its own, or it has taken a life of its own, I should say.
You remember the rumors that he was going to wrestle at 26?
Oh yeah.
Wasn't it going to be Macho Man and Triple H at 26? Or it's going to be something. I don't know. I thought it was supposed
to be Macho Man and Vince at 26, and then Brett ended up being the backup plan.
Yes, you're right.
I think that's what it was supposed to be.
According to ESPN, Punk will not fight this summer, even though his timeline would allow him to. But he still intends to make an appearance this year. Note that ESPN said he didn't say he'd fight this year. Apparently, he thinks the UFC is the WWE where you can make an appearance and you're good to go. No.
Well, I'm sure UFC has a fan expo that he can sign autographs at, so that maybe that counts for him.
Is that in between taking Z-Packs and shitting on WWE?
It probably is, and false lawsuits with Colt Cabana, it probably falls somewhere in that timeline.
If I'm Vince, not even Vince, if I'm Triple H, how much do you try to piss him off? Especially if he's talking about how he's hurt from wrestling 2 years later. Do you try to offer Colt Cabana the world and sign him to a contract after this lawsuit's all settled? You sign Cliff Compton. You got Luke Gallows under contract. You go find Serena and give her some kind of training job because she retired.
Right.
Get all of his friends signed to contracts and they'll be like, we're not hiring you.
That would be outstanding. That would be outstanding. The problem I've always had with Punk is, you look at his wife, and I hate to make this leap, but I don't think it's even that much of a leap. But you look at his wife AJ, and this is a woman who, the story of her being homeless and being a lifelong fan, and this was her dream, and she's the girl that cried at the autograph signing meeting Lita, and this is all she ever wanted. And then she hooks up with Punk, and all of a sudden this means nothing to her, and she walks away like it's not even a blink of an eye or a thought in her mind to even question it. She's just gone, and there's no issues whatsoever with her doing that. And me and my buddies, we call that the Punk effect. And that's how he comes across, and it filters through. And I really don't like that approach he has, in life or towards wrestling in general.
And I mean, I don't know. If she claimed, granted, yes, to an extent, she did what she wanted to do in wrestling. She was, at the time, the longest reigning. I'm not even going to acknowledge that because she's not. Moolah is rolling over in her grave laughing. You're a fucking woman's champion for 40 years, and you were champion for 295 days. Oh, I'm the longest reigning champion. Bitch, please.
Yeah, but see, you just said it yourself. Moolah was the longest reigning women's champion. AJ was the longest reigning divas champion.
So have they made up their mind of whether or not they're going to acknowledge? Because it's like sometimes they want to acknowledge the women's title, sometimes they don't. I don't know.
They'll never acknowledge the women's title or the women's division. Or I guess the title, as you said, they'll never acknowledge that in my eyes until they bring back the original belt, the likes that Trish and Lita held.
And I don't know. Punk is just excuse after excuse after excuse. And I don't know. I was one of the biggest CM Punk fans. I guess I still am. But how do you still support somebody when it's just excuse after excuse after excuse after bitch after bitch after bitch after bitch after bitch? We get it. You hated Vince. You hated Triple H. You hated the WWE. Go to TNA. Do something.
It's like that story that came out I think it was last week with the interview that he flipped out on the reporter for asking wrestling-related questions, and he didn't want to ever see the reporter again. And it's like, dude, you've done nothing in MMA. What else are we supposed to ask you about?
Hey, when are you going to fight? Oh, I don't know yet. Where are you going to fight? Oh, I don't know yet. Who do you want to fight? Oh, I don't know yet. What time of the day do you want to fight? Oh, maybe nighttime. Is your wife going to be there? I don't know. Are you guys going to have kids? I don't know. Why are you asking me that question? What are you asking me about my wife for? That's how that interview would probably go, too.
You may have done a bad Macho Man impersonation, but that was a killer CM Punk impersonation.
Hey, I don't think my Macho Man was that bad, was it?
It wasn't that bad, but you really outdid yourself with that CM Punk. That was uncanny.
But, I don't know. Time will tell for that for sure. But, hey, we got another tweet. But, you want my opinion? 2017 Royal Rumble, number 30, CM Punk.
See, I think he's dumb enough to hold on to his morals, values, however you want to put it, that he won't ever come back to WWE. I think he's that dumb and believes what he says that much to where he'll never come back.
Sorry, just replying to a tweet. That's how can you like a guy that can be humble? I'm assuming he means CM Punk, in which case I asked him, you mean a guy who's not humble? You know, guy who's, you know, as in the last couple of years, okay, you're atheist, dude. Congratulations. He acts like he's his own god. And, you know,
I'm pretty sure he's being sarcastic.
Probably.
He doesn't look like a CM Punk fan. He's probably a John Cena fan, though.
But no, if you want my opinion, Punk will never fight in the UFC. If he does, he's going to go down faster than who did Conor McGregor beat?
Jose Aldo.
Thank you. What was that, 13 seconds?
Something like that. 8, 13. Those are the two numbers that are coming to mind.
If there's going to be an appropriate outcome to a CM Punk fight, and mind you, I was one of the biggest CM Punk fans out there. You know, I don't do the whole cosplay thing, but
right.
I would love to see it for as much shit as he talked about WWE. Go into a fight, get knocked out in 5 seconds, and then go crawling back to WWE for a job.
Well, I mean, the guy that he scheduled to fight, that won his Fight Night fight, and is now Punk's designated opponent, I guess, he said afterwards that he thinks he can beat CM Punk in the first round by chokeout. And this guy's only had 2 professional fights. And the funny thing is, I believe him.
I'd be more interested in seeing the Green Ranger. You know what? That's what I'm going to do for an interview. I'm going to go try to get the Green Ranger.
If you do that, I want to be on that episode.
So if anybody out there is listening, if anybody wants to try to get Jason David Frank on this show so we can talk CM Punk, please help us. Please help us get word out there. Bring Jason David Frank to Main Event Madness. That's the goal for the spring and summer. We're going to get, one way or another, some shape or form, we're going to get Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger who wants to fight CM Punk on Main Event Madness.
We need a catchy hashtag for that, like JDF on an MEM or something like that.
Let's see. We got a couple Twitter. R. Navarro, get that going. JDF on, can you get a hashtag of that? Hashtag JDF on MEM.
Yeah, if you're going to tweet us that much, go ahead and just get us a hashtag going.
By the way, he admitted what you said.
I knew it. I knew he was a John Cena.
Winner and new United States champion, Navarro guy.
I like it.
But really quick here, speaking of the Navarro guy, look at these segues tonight. I don't have the connection problems right now. That was a beautiful one.
That was a good one. I'm not giving him credit.
Damn. That was you liking the tweet. Damn, I thought he had the hashtag on. John Cena's merch sales are down, and everybody in Stamford, Connecticut is freaking out and shitting their pants.
How down are we talking?
I don't know. To the interwebs we shall go. But I don't think it's that substantial, but I mean, even hell, as much as the guy was bringing in, I can't imagine they'd be hurting for money that badly. But no, I saw John Cena. No,
The thing about that is, not even knowing how much the merchandise sales have gone down, but can you really be surprised? I mean, granted, everyone is allowed a break, especially John Cena. I'm not the biggest John Cena fan, but that guy has been going strong for over a decade. He deserves a break as much as anyone. But the timing of said break, when everyone's getting hurt, and he's going to film some show on Fox, which now is apparently going to be competing with SmackDown, and I'm sure Vince isn't that thrilled about that. I'm not surprised that people are souring on Cena enough to where they don't want to spend money on him anymore. Because how close are we to him becoming The Rock or Batista, and we don't see him that much anymore?
I've said it. Cena will not wrestle another full-time year. 2013. Actually, 2012 was John Cena's last full-time year that he didn't miss time. That's my honest opinion.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that completely.
And I mean, has he deserved it? Yes. But, it's the Attitude Era effect, It was the mid-90s, and all the kids that they geared the World Wrestling Federation to, and, eat your vitamins, say your prayers, and drink your milk. All the kids were, back then in the mid-90s, were like, fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
And Vince was like, but Hogan. Screw Hogan. WCW found that out the hard way. They had to turn him.
Sure did.
And, John Cena could be such a breath of fresh air as a heel. And, me and a buddy of mine were talking about this when we were at WrestleMania. Really quick here before we wrap up. What if, when Nikki Bella, if she can't wrestle again, let her be Cena's manager. Cena's valet. That's a dimension of Cena we've never seen before. Cena with a manager or valet, and Cena, arguably as a top level heel. We didn't see him as a top level heel really. I mean, he had one WWE title match, but
it's funny. Arnold, are you caught up with the new TNA product recently? Are you watching them on Pop TV?
I don't even know if I have Pop TV.
Oh, that's fair. I don't watch them either, but I do follow at least the storylines. And it's funny you bring that up because Matt Hardy and his wife are doing a storyline where basically Matt is above TNA. He's the rich aristocrat, world heavyweight champion. He's the icon, as he's calling himself, and he's above everything in the company. And he's doing a great job as a heel from the promos that I catch online. And as soon as you said Nikki as his valet, I could see Cena and Nikki doing that angle on a bigger stage and really playing that off well.
And it's like, we can do that better.
Exactly.
It's like, hey, Brodus, you want to come back to WWE? You can do the same thing here.
You won't even have to dance this time.
Nope. You just kick some ass. That's what you want to do the last time. But, apologize. We'll talk about it next week. Finn Balor and NXT. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. Ankle sprain. I don't know if he'll... I don't think he's supposed to miss NXT Dallas. But some issues with Rey Mysterio and AAA. We'll talk about that next week. And I think that was the only one. Yeah. The Dudley's heel turn. We'll talk about that next week also. Do you have any posts or anything coming up this week on TGI Wrestling?
Well, since we did this live tonight, I'll have my NXT Spotlight up a day late, so I'll put that up on TGI tomorrow.
You slacker.
I know. We got the big Bayley, Carmella, Baymella feud tonight on NXT, so I'll have the recap of that. Not sure what my editorial will be this month on TJR. I know I'm going to have a big, if you're coming to Dallas WrestleMania, what to expect in the area. I'll have that up on TJR probably in March. But as for this month, I don't know. But just give me a follow on Frisco K-Tank, and you'll learn firsthand what I've got going.
And I'll put you on the spot.
Yes.
Will you join us for the Fastlane pre-show Sunday, February 21st at 5 p.m. Eastern on wrestling-news.net?
Putting me on the spot, I will be there loud and clear, ready to talk about Fastlane. which actually should be a pretty surprisingly good pay-per-view with the matches set so far.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good. It's the Dean versus Brock show featuring Roman Reigns.
Which is surprising and awesome at the same time.
Yes, it is.
But I will definitely be there. Absolutely be happy to do it.
Awesome stuff. Look forward to having you back. Hey, got a retweet from Jeff Jarrett. That's awesome.
Attaboy.
But guys, next week, as I've said, Global Force Wrestling heavyweight champion of the world, Magnus, he's former TNA heavyweight champion of the world. We will have an exclusive interview with him next week, live here on Main Event Madness. The interview will air at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget, we are live every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern on wrestling-news.net. Guys, please, if you haven't already, give us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/Main Event Madness. And while you're at it, check out our event pages for our Fastlane pregame show, which, as I mentioned, is at 5 p.m. Eastern on February 21st. And, of course, our 2-year anniversary show, which we're going to be live for 3 hours on February 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern on wrestling-news.net. Working on getting a guest for that show. We will have that news as soon as we can hammer out some details, working on some pretty fun names for that show. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. Follow Mark on Twitter at TheMarkMadison. Follow me on Twitter at John M. Marino. Sorry, I had to crack my back. Follow Kurt on Twitter at Frisco K-Tank. And Evan at Evan_Ginzburg. EvanGinzburg. And, of course, guys, like he said, if you guys have it, if you guys are able to, please go over to GoFundMe.com/I5K9SO. We're going to post it on our Facebook page. Evan did before. We're going to post it again. Whatever you have, even like he said, even if it's $1, please donate to this. It's a good cause, to prevent a, former awesome woman, well, not former awesome woman, but an awesome woman nonetheless, try to prevent her from being on the streets. She got some medical problems. So, yep, that's pretty much it. Kurt, thank you very much, man. It was a fun show.
John, glad to be on here. It was a great time. I really enjoyed it.
Great to have you, man. Look forward to definitely having you on again for, like I said, for the pregame show.
But, we'll be there. Looking forward to it.
And I'm slacking on this. That's okay. Guys, that's going to do it for this show. Thank you for taking time out. And I apologize once again for the technical difficulties. I'll have the show uploaded in full momentarily. Probably about by 11 o'clock at the latest. I should have that show up there. The show up there in full. Apologize once more for those technical difficulties. And we'll be back next Wednesday. Magnus from Global Force Wrestling, TNA Wrestling, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm rambling, which means I need to shut the hell up. It's time to go.
It's late.
It's late. Guys, take care. Lord willing, we'll be back next week, 8 p.m. Eastern, wrestling-news.net. Bye-bye. The preceding broadcast was an MEM Network production. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you missed a part or all of tonight's show, visit Spreaker.com/show/Main Event Madness or PWPNation.com. Also, every week, we stream live on wrestling-news.net. And for the latest news on the show, like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Main Event Madness. Be sure to catch us back here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're Main Event Madness. Madness Unleashed. Have a good one, everybody. So long.